some highlights of the search engine giant, said so. Google is a model to emulate, provided you find the lights and shades that better match your business. It seems Thomson Reuters and its Chief Innovation Officer Amanda West are quite clear where they want the bright colors and where the hues, and what they would call successful innovation. At Thomson Reuters, innovation is about smart growth.
Our objective is to incubate sort of a couple of successful businesses every year to 18 months. And we've got our own ways of measuring success. It's got to be about taking something to scale, and I don't think we will change necessarily those sorts of objectives.
How to tackle these objectives? At Reuters, they'd rather allow business to get on with that, obviously, because they have a crystal clear corporate view of why and how the company innovates. To begin with, all innovations have to be able to demonstrate value. In other, less euphemistic words, show me the money, or value equals dollars.
Well, the way we've defined innovation at Reuters and what we're doing at Reuters is to look for transformational opportunities for the company. And by that we mean new markets, new customers, perhaps using new technologies and often new business models.
Direct and concise, both the definition and the mandate. That's the lesson from Reuters. This is closely connected with the idea we discussed earlier, the power of intersections, the promising spark of switching modes from business as usual to let's reimagine our business. The latent power in dichotomies such as scorecard or guts, a lot of gut feeling at the beginning and a lot of in-depth knowledge when the idea moves forward.
The program started, we've been going just over 2 years, and we started at a point in the company's history where the company had started to invest in the future, and we determined that it would make sense to actually look at taking a little bit of our investment and really experimenting with what we hope will be new and really transformational ideas for the business. And the genesis came out of a discussion with the board and our CEO, Tom, and then a determination to put a small sum of cash aside to really experiment with where the future might take us, and that's what we're doing.
Where do those new and transformational ideas come from? They come from many sources. Some from within the company, a lot of them from external interactions, from conversations with all sorts of people in what Reuters calls their external networks. Academia, small startups, big companies, quite an eclectic group of people.
We have a project in India at the moment that is essentially delivering price and weather information to farmers in India over mobile phones. And that came out of our program. It started because the company was interested in emerging markets, and India and China were fairly high up that list. And also we looked essentially at the bottom of the pyramid as one of our big global macro trends that we studied. And we began really by actually taking an idea that a Reuters staff member had worked up at Stanford University. He'd been in Stanford for a year, and we brought it back in-house, and we essentially looked first of all at whether we thought we could create such a business and what we thought the scale of the opportunity might be. And there are 600 million farmers in India. That's quite a big market for us to go for. And we did some very, very early stage segmentation to determine what we thought the scale of the opportunity might be.
600 million farmers in India make quite a big market. After some early stage segmentation to determine scale, it proved to be large.
The next thing we did really was we sat back and we said, actually, if we're going to do this, we need to find the right team, because it had to really be built from within India and by people that understood the marketplace within which it was going to operate. So that took some while, finding the right person from within the company to lead the project, we found the perfect person, and then building the local team to start actually testing the customer need. And we needed people who had some agricultural experience as well as business acumen. So that was probably the next big activity. And then following that, we, as quickly as we possibly could, built a prototype and went out and did some fairly lengthy and significant customer test, because we were asking farmers to change the way they do things, which again, you have to test for quite some time to determine how ready the customer in this case was for that sort of change.
They've now got over 25,000 customers in one state, Maharashtra, the second most popular, the third largest by area, and the richest state in India. They're acquiring customers at an increasing rate every day, and they're actually looking to go multi-state.
As much as you can be on schedule with anything where you've got a completely new customer set and a completely new offer for that customer set.
Going back to the start, at Reuters, they set the tone for innovation and the time frame, and then allow the people doing business to tackle the process and make their way towards harbor. The process they created at Reuters, as Amanda West puts it, includes a portfolio tool, a hot pad, and a stage gate tool.
But I'd actually argue the most important thing is to use those things very advisedly. So don't over complicate your idea process by constantly trying to process it. And you have to let things be a little bit freewheeling here and there.
That's a determining factor. We're talking again about matching pairs. Process and discipline are good friends of innovation, as good as eyes wide open and fast brain connections. The world is moving at a quick and steady pace, and so should business. You'll share the laggard's fate if you get stuck in the planning phase.
Today, quite often a lot of our customers receive their services on a PC that's relatively stationary, but that you just know if you wind the clock forward, everyone will be consuming information totally on a mobile device. And that's going to have a significant impact on the immediacy of information to people all over the world. So as mobile growth it really continues in India and places like China, that's going to significantly change information production and consumption.
Mobility is a theme. Emerging markets is a theme. Social networks, the semantic web, intelligent data are themes, so valid and relevant to Reuters and its business as they could be. Less directly, though, to any other business. The impact of change and innovation today is always dramatic and deeply transformational.
What you see going on here is that companies really trying to fundamentally rethink the economic proposition of research and develop, okay, and to get onto a more successful model. And in the case of Procter & Gamble, we move from less than 10% of our products. Procter puts roughly about 250 major innovations a year in the marketplace. Less than, I would say, 10% of those were coming from the outside, linked to the outside when we started this. And Procter & Gamble, and it's part of the public record, is over 50%. Over half of the innovations in the market have a significant element, either the concept, the technology, the package, device, some aspect of it, is coming from an outside source that adds, their value is added to the internal value to create something bigger. And often they, Procter and our clients, we're looking for ready-to-go things. So things that might be small, they may be sitting small in a marketplace in Japan that can be grown up to be a big idea for the rest of the world. So the risk changes and the whole economics of the whole approach changes.
Research and development, an old friend from the times of organization and methods most companies are still clinging to, the so-called invention model centered on a bricks-and-mortar R&D infrastructure and the idea that innovation must come from within. They spend a lot of money in knowledge development and in the research itself. Then develop products, then test them, and finally put them in the marketplace. According to Larry Huston, the former innovation officer for Procter & Gamble, now the managing director of 4iNNO, a leading consultancy on open innovation, few groundbreaking innovations can result from such a process. The outcome will far more frequently be an incremental change, just a bandage on a broken model. That's why he created a new model, referred to at Procter & Gamble as Connect and Develop, elsewhere as Open Innovation, both a play on words and a radical idea. Rather than inventing it yourself, connect with think tanks, other companies, inventors, entrepreneurs globally, and bring new values, new innovations.
In the year 2000, Procter was faced with a difficult challenge. It was faced with not really growing its top line at the rate that it needed to. It had a drop in its share price, one of the first big drops ever. And I think the company was, like most big new business model developments, the company was ready, willing to consider some new business models.
Connect plus Develop is one of the strategies that led to turbocharging P&G's innovation results. It expanded P&G's organization to include 1.5 million people outside the company and moved the culture away from not invented here. As a result, over 400 product innovations in market generated billions in new top-line sales. Innovation productivity grew 60%. New innovation success rates scaled up to 75%, and P&G stock prices increased 150%.
Procter, is definitely the leader, has been the leader in the consumer packaged goods industry. If you look at the reports in terms of the most significant innovations, Procter typically has the top half of the most significant innovations in the industry. However, it was having to invest and invent everything itself. It had to grow about $5 billion in new top-line revenue every year. And when, this is an organization of around 9,000 people, and, growing $5 billion business every new year, coming to work every day, is not an easy thing to do.
Keep your energy and your enthusiasm up. Follow your dreams and your deepest instincts. Stay focused on the mission of delighting consumers with our brands, of helping this company grow and be stronger tomorrow than it is today, to win versus our toughest competitors, to be a role model as a business, to help others be as good as they can be, and to never stop reaching for a better way.
And so Procter was looking at, new technologies, having to grow its top line, and saying at these kinds of levels, there's no way that we could, really drive our profitable top line growth. One of the things that I did was I went out and I talked to over 20 companies, and I said, what are the fundamental issues that you have? And one of the fundamental issues is, if you looked at the growth in revenue for companies, it was on one slope, and the growth in the investment being made in innovation and new science and technology was on a higher slope. Well, when you've got two slopes like this, it doesn't take a genius to figure out you don't have a sustainable business model. And partly what's happening is that technology is coming at everybody so fast. The internet, sensor technology, new chemistries, moving from petrol-based technologies to biotech technologies and so on. And these put tremendous budget strains on existing innovation budgets. So companies are fundamentally, or CEOs are faced with, the CTO knocking on the door and say, boss, I need more money. Or, we risk our brands and we risk our profitable franchises unless we get on with the new technology.
How to do this? The very first step is to get clear on the real mandate, the problem you're trying to solve, and make it mission critical. It can't be a side issue. It's got to be a mainstream issue.
The result we tried to create at Procter was more than half of our innovations would come through Procter & Gamble from the outside. We would insource. We would change our culture from an NIH culture to a proudly found elsewhere culture, not invented here. And most companies are invention cultures, right? Their first instinct is to understand the consumer and run and try to deliver it themselves. And most companies reward invention, so you naturally end up with an NIH, not invented here culture. They're not valuing ideas from other places. So we worked really hard to change the culture from NIH to proudly found elsewhere. Because what we really wanted was to move the needle with the consumer. That's what it was about. And we didn't care, the consumer doesn't care whether it's invented inside or we linked outside. They just care about a great result and a great experience with the product, right? So we changed the culture from NIH to proudly found elsewhere. We built innovation networks. And importantly, we identified our innovation assets, not who we were, not in terms of just the know-how that we have, but also know who. So innovation assets become both know-how and know who. And so we systematically began to identify who are key leaders, key companies, key individuals, key entrepreneurs, and begin to catalog them and find ways to knock on their door with a technical brief or a description of the problem, and to begin to engage in the dialogue that we all were engaged in anyway, which is, here's a problem that we have. It looks like you have a potential solution. Let's see if we can do a deal.
Maybe the immediate reaction is, oh my God, we're hollowing out our technical capability. After all, Procter's got over 25,000 patents. It's the world leader in its industry and so on. It's only natural for investors and employees to be concerned.
Does this mean this is being outsourced? I mean, both investors, employees, and others will all be concerned about that. And that was an immediate reaction. And we had to really explain, no, we're doing just the opposite. We're not outsourced.